In this video, we will learn WHMIS Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System, GHS Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals. Full Course Part 1. Please subscribe the channel. 10 Rules for Workplace Safety. 1. You are responsible for your own safety and for the safety of others. 2. All accidents are preventable. 3. Do not take shortcuts. 4. Always follow the rules. 5. If you are not trained, don't do it. 6. Use the right tools and equipment and use them in the right way. 7. Assess the risk before you approach your work. 8. Never wear loose clothes or slippery footwear. 9. Do not indulge in horseplay while at work. Practice good housekeeping. 10. Always wear PPE. Personal protective equipment may include items such as gloves, safety glasses, and shoes, earplugs or muffs, hard hats, respirators, or coveralls, vests and full body suits. Please subscribe the channel. A hazard is a potential source of harm. Substances, events, or circumstances can constitute hazards when their nature would allow them, even just theoretically, to cause damage to health, life, property, or any other interest of value. The probability of that harm being realized in a specific incident, combined with the magnitude of potential harm, makes up its risk, a term often used synonymously in colloquial speech. Please subscribe the channel. How can we control environmental hazards? The most preferred method of controlling risk is to eliminate the hazard altogether. In most cases, elimination is not feasible, and when possible, substitution is the best approach to hazard mitigation. When possible, substitute less hazardous agents in place of their more hazardous counterparts. Please subscribe the channel. Hazard identification. A hazard analysis is used as the first step in a process used to assess risk. The result of a hazard analysis is the identification of different types of hazards. A hazard is a potential condition and exists or not. Hazard statements form part of the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals. They are intended to form a set of standardized phrases about the hazards of chemical substances and mixtures that can be translated into different languages. WHIMS labels are your first alert about the major hazards of hazardous products. WHIMS labels also outline the basic precautions or safety steps you should take. There are two main types of WHIMS labels: supplier labels and workplace labels. A supplier label is provided for each hazardous product by the supplier. Please subscribe the channel. What are hazard statement codes? GHS hazard statement means a standard phrase assigned to a hazard class and category to describe the nature and severity of a chemical hazard. Each hazard statement is designated a code, starting with the letter H and followed by 3 digits. Please subscribe the channel. What is the globally harmonized system? GHS stands for the Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals. The primary benefit of the GHS is to increase the quality and consistency of information provided to workers, employers, and chemical users by adopting a standardized approach to hazard classification. Labels and safety data. It is a system of hazard communication for chemical hazards that can be adopted by countries around the world. GHS was developed by a United Nations international team of hazard communication experts. They established the following two major standardized elements: 1. Rules for classifying the hazards of chemical products. 2. Hazard communication tools such as format for safety data sheets, content for labels and SDSs with hazard and precautionary statements, symbols, signal word. Why was GHS developed? Hazard statements form part of the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals. They are intended to form a set of standardized phrases about the hazards of chemical substances and mixtures that can be translated into different languages. WHIMS labels are your first alert about the major hazards of hazardous products. WHIMS labels also outline the basic precautions or safety steps you should take. There are two main types of WHIMS labels: supplier labels and workplace labels. A supplier label is provided for each hazardous product by the supplier. GHS was developed because many different countries had different systems for the classification and labeling of chemical products. In addition, several different systems can exist even within the same country. Please subscribe the channel. While existing systems were similar in many respects, their differences were significant enough to result in different hazard classifications, labels, or SDS for the same product. For example, one country may classify a product as carcinogenic while another country will not. This situation has been expensive for governments to regulate and enforce. Costly for companies who have to comply with many different systems, and confusing for workers who need to understand the hazards of a chemical in order to work safely. As more and more countries adopt the principles of GHS, the benefits include promoting regulatory efficiency, facilitating trade, easing compliance, reducing costs, providing improved, consistent hazard information, encouraging the safe transport, handling, and use of chemicals, promoting better emergency response to chemical incidents, reducing the need for animal testing. Please subscribe the channel. What is the scope of GHS? GHS covers all hazardous chemicals products, such as those used for the following purposes: industrial chemicals, consumer chemical products, pesticides, agricultural chemicals, pharmaceuticals. The target audiences for GHS include workers in many different industries, emergency responders, and consumers. Please subscribe the channel. What are some key terms in the GHS vocabulary? SDS, Safety Data Sheet. The GHS SDS has 16 sections in a set order, and minimum information is prescribed. Labels. With the GHS, certain information will appear on the label. Standardized elements such as chemical identify, hazard statements, signal words and symbols will appear on the label according to the classification of that chemical or mixture. Precautionary statements may also be required, if adopted by your regulatory authority. Hazard group. While not given a formal definition, GHS divides hazards into three major groups: health, physical and environmental. Class. Class is the term used to describe the different types of hazards. For example, gases under pressure is an example of a class in the physical hazards group. Category. Category is the name used to describe the subsections of classes. For example, self-reactive chemicals have 7 categories. Each category has rules or criteria to determine what chemicals are assigned to that category. Categories are assigned numbers with Category 1 being the most hazardous. Hazard statement: for each category of a class, a standardized statement is used to describe the hazard. For example, the hazard statement for chemicals that meet the criteria for the class self-heating substances and mixtures, Category 1 is self-heating, may catch fire. This hazard statement would appear both on the label and on the SDS. Precautionary statement: these statements are standardized phrases that describe the recommended steps to be taken to minimize or prevent adverse effects from exposure to or resulting from improper handling or storage of a hazardous product. Signal word: there are two signal words used by the GHS, danger and warning. These signal words are used to communicate the level of hazard on both the label and the SDS. The appropriate signal word to use is set out by the classification system. For example, the signal word for self-heating substances and mixtures, Category 1 is danger, while warning is used for the less serious Category 2. There are categories where no signal word is used. Pictogram: pictogram refers to the GHS symbol on the label and SDS. Not all categories have a pictogram associated with them. Please subscribe the channel. How is GHS organized? GHS consists of three major hazard groups. Physical hazards, health hazards, environmental hazards. Within each of these hazard groups, there are classes and categories. Please subscribe the channel. What are the classes within the health hazard group? Criteria for classifying chemicals have been developed for the following health hazard classes. Acute toxicity, skin corrosion/irritation, serious eye damage/eye irritation, respiratory or skin sensitization, germ cell mutagenicity, carcinogenicity, reproductive toxicity, specific target organ toxicity, single exposure, specific target organ toxicity, repeated exposure, aspiration hazard. Please subscribe the channel. The hazards are divided in 9 classes. Class 1 are explosives. You can see the different pics. Please pause the video to have a good look. Class 2 are flammable gases. Non-flammable gases, inhalation hazards, oxygen. Class 3 are computable liquids, flammable liquids. You can see the different pics. Please pause the video to have a good look. Class 4 are flammable solids. Dangerous when wet. Spontaneously combustible. You can see the different pics. Please pause the video to have a good look. Class 5 are organic peroxide, oxidizers. Class 6 are poisons, inhalation hazard. Class 7 is radioactive materials. You can see the different pics. Please pause the video to have a good look. Class 8 is corrosives. Class 9 are miscellaneous, hazardous materials. You can see the different pics. Please pause the video to have a good look. And also subscribe the channel. What are the classes within the physical hazard group? Criteria for classifying chemicals have been developed for the following physical hazard classes. Explosives. Explosive materials can suddenly, almost instantaneously, release pressure, gas and heat when subjected to sudden shock, pressure, or high temperature. Flammable gases. The flammable gases may ignite very quickly. These products may cause a fire or explosion if heated. These products may be corrosive to metals. Flammable gas means any material which is a gas at 20 degrees Celsius. All liquids with a flash point of not more than 199.4 degrees Fahrenheit are categorized as flammable liquids. Flammable liquids are further subdivided into categories. Category 1, liquids have flash points below 73.4 degrees Fahrenheit and boiling points at or below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Please subscribe the channel. Flammable gas fires nearly all involve natural gas or LP gas. Flammable or combustible liquid fires nearly all involve unclassified or unknown type flammable or combustible liquid, Class IIIB combustible liquids, Class II combustible liquids, or gasoline. Please subscribe the channel. Oxidizing gases. Oxidizing gases are highly reactive gases that contribute more oxygen to combustion processes than normal air does. The most common examples are nitrogen oxides, ozone, and oxygen itself. NO mainly refers to nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide, which both coexist. Common oxidizers include hydrogen peroxide, nitric acid, nitrate, and nitrite compounds, perchloric acid and perchlorate compounds, and hypochlorite compounds, such as household bleach. Please subscribe the channel. Gases under pressure. The symbol within the pictogram is a gas cylinder. This symbol indicates that hazardous products with this pictogram are gases that are contained in a receptacle under pressure, or which are liquefied and refrigerated. Gases under pressure are gases which are contained in a receptacle at a pressure of 200 kPa or 29 psi or more, or which are liquefied and refrigerated. This includes compressed gases, liquefied gases, dissolved gases, and refrigerated liquefied gases. Please subscribe the channel. Green pick A is ordinary combustibles, wood, paper, cloth, etc. Red pick B is flammable liquids, grease, oil, paint, solvents. Blue pick C is live electrical equipment, electrical panel, motor, wiring, etc. Yellow pick D is combustible metal, magnesium, aluminum, etc. Black pick K is commercial cooking equipment, oils, cooking animal fats, vegetable oils. Please subscribe the channel. Flammable liquids. The flammable liquid sign is a red diamond with a flame and also includes the words flammable liquid. Flammable liquids like gasoline, for example, can ignite easily at relatively low temperatures. Flammable liquid is any liquid having a flash point at or below 199.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Flammable liquids are divided into 4 categories as follows. 1. Category 1 shall include liquids having flash points below 73.4 degrees Fahrenheit and having a boiling point at or below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The symbol within the pictogram is a flame with a line underneath it. This symbol indicates that hazardous products with this pictogram can ignite easily and burn rapidly if they are not stored and handled properly. Please subscribe the channel. Flammable liquids. The flammable liquid sign is a red diamond with a flame and also includes the words flammable liquid. Flammable liquids like gasoline, for example, can ignite easily at relatively low temperatures. Flammable liquid is any liquid having a flashpoint at or below 199.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Flammable liquids are divided into 4 categories as follows. 1. Category 1 shall include liquids having flashpoints below 73.4 degrees Fahrenheit and having a boiling point at or below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The symbol within the pictogram is a flame with a line underneath it. This symbol indicates that hazardous products with this pictogram can ignite easily and burn rapidly if they are not stored and handled properly. Please subscribe the channel. The main difference between flammable and combustible liquids is the flash point, which refers to the lowest temperature at which the vapors generated by a liquid turn into a flammable gas and can ignite. A liquid with a flash point under 100 degrees Fahrenheit is considered flammable. Examples: gasoline, acetone, toluene, diethyl ether, alcohols. Hazard: may produce ignitable vapors at normal ambient temperatures. Please subscribe the channel. Flammable solids. A flammable solid is a solid which is readily combustible or which may cause or contribute to fire through friction. Some solids, normally organic in nature, will decompose as they are heated to produce small combustible molecules that when mixed with air, may eventually ignite. For naturally occurring flammable solids, the water content of the material can determine its ignition temperature. Class 4, Flammable solids, substances liable to spontaneous combustion, substances that on contact with water emit flammable gases. Some examples of flammable solids include certain metallic hydrides, metallic sodium and potassium, oily fabrics, processed metals, matches, and nitrocellulose products. Please subscribe the channel. Aerosols. Many aerosol sprays contain highly toxic chemicals like xylene and formaldehyde, yes, the same chemical used to preserve anatomical specimens in a jar. These toxic ingredients also include neurotoxins and carcinogens that are extremely hazardous for adults, children, and family pets. What are the health effects of aerosols? The health impacts of aerosols consist of both short-term acute symptoms, like asthma and bronchitis, and long-term chronic irritation and inflammation of the respiratory tract, which can potentially lead to cancer. Please subscribe the channel. Self-reactive substances and mixtures. Reactive chemicals are defined as those substances which can, in contact with air, water, or other common substances, vigorously or violently give off heat, energy, or toxic gases or vapors. Self-reactive substances or mixtures are thermally unstable liquid or solid substances or mixtures liable to undergo a strongly exothermic decomposition even without participation of oxygen. This definition excludes substances and mixtures classified under the GHS as explosives, organic peroxides, or as oxidizing. Pyrophoric liquids. Pyrophoric chemicals are used in research to catalyze certain reactions and often are incorporated into final products. However, they pose significant physical hazards. They are liquids and solids that will ignite spontaneously in the presence of oxygen and water. Pyrophoric chemicals are liquids, solids, and gases that will ignite spontaneously in air at or below 130 degrees Fahrenheit or 54 degrees Celsius. Oxidation of the compound by oxygen or moisture in air proceeds so rapidly that ignition occurs. Please subscribe the channel. Pyrophoric solids. Pyrophoric chemicals are used in research to catalyze certain reactions and often are incorporated into final products. However, they pose significant physical hazards. They are liquids and solids that will ignite spontaneously in the presence of oxygen and water. The definition for pyrophoric solids and liquids is a solid or liquid respectively, which, even in small quantities, is liable to ignite within 5 minutes after coming in contact with air. Please subscribe the channel. Self-heating substances and mixtures. Self-heating of a substance or mixture is a process where the gradual reaction of that substance or mixture with oxygen in air generates heat. A self-heating substance or mixture is a solid or liquid substance or mixture, other than a pyrophoric liquid or solid, which, by reaction with air and without energy supply, is liable to self-heat. This substance or mixture differs from a pyrophoric liquid or solid in that it will ignite only when in large amounts and after long periods of time. A self-heating material is one which reacts with air, in the absence of external energy, to produce heat. Self-heating materials may ignite if stored in large quantities. These materials typically also react violently with water. Self-ignition and spontaneous combustion occurs when an exothermic chemical or biological process within a material increases the temperature of the material without the application of an external heat source. As an example, machine oil turns into a self-heating substance when absorbed by a porous cotton rag. Another example is found in a piece of wood that is fire-safe, yet wood dust can exhibit self-heating properties. Please subscribe the channel. Substances and mixtures which, in contact with water, emit flammable gases. The GHS classification: substances and mixtures which, in contact with water, emit flammable gases includes those that will emit flammable gases due to moisture in the air. In some cases, the evolution of flammable gas is directly followed by fire, which is why these materials were commonly considered pyrophoric. Aluminum phosphide: when in contact with moist air or water evolve phosphine, a spontaneously flammable and highly toxic gas. Dangerous when wet: solid substances that emit a flammable gas when wet or react violently with water. The alkali metals are the most reactive metals in the periodic table. They all react vigorously or even explosively with cold water, resulting in the displacement of hydrogen. Please subscribe the channel. There are two categories of flammable solids. Category 1 materials are rapidly burning metals and compounds very resistant to being extinguished by water. Category 2 materials are slower burning metals and compounds that are susceptible to extinguishment by water. Oxidizing liquids. Oxidizing liquid means a liquid which, while in itself is not necessarily combustible, may, generally by yielding oxygen, cause, or contribute to, the combustion of other material. Oxidizers are solids, liquids, or gases that react readily with most organic material or reducing agents with no energy input. Oxidizers are a severe fire hazard. They are not necessarily combustible, but they can intensify combustion and increase the flammable range for chemicals so they ignite more readily. Oxidizing agents are ammonium perchlorate, bromine, chromic acid, dibenzyl peroxide, perchloric acid, sodium perchlorate, acetyl peroxide, hydrogen peroxide, potassium peroxide, sodium chlorate, calcium chlorate, fluorine, propyl nitrate, etc. Please subscribe the channel. Oxidizing solids. Oxidizing solid means a solid which, while in itself is not necessarily combustible, may, generally by yielding oxygen, cause, or contribute to, the combustion of other material. Oxidizing materials are chemicals that can decompose readily to yield oxygen or an oxidizing substance. Working safely with oxidizing materials. Understand all of the hazards associated with the material, and how to use it safely. Please subscribe the channel. Organic peroxides. They contain both oxygen and organic matter, so they burn easily. They can also give off flammable gases or vapors. For these reasons, the biggest concerns with organic peroxides are fires and explosions. They can catch fire easily, burn vigorously, and are hard to put out. Organic peroxides are derived from hydrogen peroxide, where one or both hydrogen molecules are replaced by organic free radicals, which can be used in a variety of applications. These include plastics and rubber manufacturing processes and sanitation applications. Organic peroxides include peroxyacetic acid, which is most widely used, peroxyoctanoic acid, cumene peroxide, hydroperoxides, dactyl peroxides and peroxyesters. Please subscribe the channel. Corrosive to metals. Metal corrodes when it reacts with another substance such as oxygen, hydrogen, an electrical current, or even dirt and bacteria. Corrosion can also happen when metals like steel are placed under too much stress, causing the material to crack. Please subscribe the channel. The formation of this layer is the result of a chemical process known as rusting, which is a form of corrosion. Corrosion, in general, is a process through which refined metals are converted into more stable compounds such as metal oxides, metal sulfides, or metal hydroxides. Please subscribe the channel. Health hazards include chemical hazards, physical hazards, biological hazards, and ergonomic risk factors. The 6 main categories of hazards are: biological. Biological hazards include viruses, bacteria, insects, animals, etc., that can cause adverse health impacts. Chemical. Chemical hazards are hazardous substances that can cause harm. Physical. Safety. Ergonomic. Psychosocial. Please subscribe the channel. Toxicity. What are the kind of toxicities? These are the common toxicity types. Acute toxicity. Skin corrosion/irritation. Serious eye damage/eye irritation. Respiratory or skin sensitization. Germ cell mutagenicity. Carcinogenicity. Reproductive toxicology. Target organ systemic toxicity, single exposure. Target organ systemic toxicity, repeated exposure. Aspiration toxicity. Please subscribe the channel. Biological health hazards. Biological health hazards include bacteria, viruses, parasites, and molds or fungi. They can pose a threat to human health when they are inhaled, eaten, or come in contact with skin. They can cause illnesses such as food poisoning, tetanus, respiratory infections, or parasite infection. We provide expertise and resources on monitoring and controlling biological hazards that are transmitted through food, air, or water. Please subscribe the channel. An environmental hazard is any condition, process, or state adversely affecting the environment. Environmental hazards manifest as physical or chemical pollution in air, water, and soils. Environmental hazards can cause widespread harm to humans and the physical environment. Or, An environmental hazard is a substance, state, or event which has the potential to threaten the surrounding natural environment or adversely affect people's health, including pollution and natural disasters such as storms and earthquakes. The atmosphere or air, lithosphere, or rocks and soil, hydrosphere, or water, and the biological component of the environment, or biosphere, are the four basic components of the environment. Common hazards in businesses can include chemical spills, dust, offensive odors, as well as unwanted noise and vibration. It's important to know your hazards and the harm they can cause. Please subscribe the channel. Air contaminants. Toxic waste. Radiation. Disease-causing microorganisms and plants. Ventilation. Temperatures indoor workplaces. Work in hot or cold environments. Lighting. Cleanliness and waste materials. Workroom dimensions and space. Workstation and seating. Substance toxicities. Please subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching.